Hello! A few years into the superheated hype machine powering interest in RPA, are we at the end of the road? The answer, I think, is yes and no. And a recent conversation I had is a great illustration of why. Earlier this week, I spent an hour talking to the person leading digitisation of operations at a large European financial services company. This organisation's been working with RPA for over 5 years, and it's achieved some really significant results, working across multiple business processes. Interestingly, all the organisation's initial work with RPA was led outside of its IT group, almost as a kind of skunkworks project, and this enabled them to start small and experiment without any big expectations of big returns, and then expand as value was realised. And this is something we see quite often, and it's commonly understood to be one of the reasons why RPA software has become widespread so quickly. However, as the organisation starts to look more strategically at automation end-to-end, the team driving the work is realising that it's at risk of creating a new layer of kind of spaghetti technology. It needs to think methodically about business architecture, and also it needs to get IT involved. So the change of pace is having to change, and change quite dramatically. Scaling impact through automation is no longer really being about working fast in small teams. It's about building consensus across multiple parts of the organization and working carefully to manage risks. And this is made more complicated because the organization realizes that digitizing operations can't be done purely through RPA. It also needs e-signature, intelligent document processing, workflow, API-based integration, and operational analytics, among other things. And all of these things need to be integrated together to enable a kind of continuous virtuous cycle of insight and improvement. That's really at the heart of the promise of digitized operations. Now, so RPA still has its place, but it's just one part of a larger journey. And what got the organization to this point isn't what's going to help them get the rest of the way on their journey, either from a technological perspective or from a change management perspective. And what we're seeing here is being played out across organizations in multiple industries and multiple countries. Organizations with a degree of digital maturity are looking to set broad automation strategies that leverage multiple types of tools to create end-to-end digital operations capabilities. And more organizations are realizing that RPA, although it's a very good way to kickstart digitization often, it's only one piece of what they need. And more than that, the more they need to act strategically related to automation, the more they need to engage multiple stakeholders to move forward. Digitization of operations shifts from being something that you can drive from within a kind of innovation silo to being something that needs to be coordinated carefully, embracing existing IT practices and methods and capabilities along the way. So RPA isn't dead, not by a long shot. There are still plenty of industries where digitization of operations is still in its very early stages. We see loads of examples in logistics and distribution, utilities, shipping, retail, as well as indeed in some corners of insurance and banking. And even in more mature organizations and industries, smart RPA vendors can still position themselves for success by building complementary capabilities around their RPA core, looking for interactive use cases that align more with employee empowerment and effectiveness, and doing more things like that. But in the most mature adopters, it's clear that decisions are already being made to carefully constrain RPA, so it acts as just one cog in a much larger machine. We've already seen many of the independent RPA specialist vendors acquired as part of strategies to create broad automation platforms. Nintex's recent acquisition of Cryon just a couple of weeks ago is only the most recent example. The handful of vendors that remain as specialists having to work really hard to demonstrate that they can be more than just one-trick ponies. And also they're having to get used to making more multifaceted arguments to wider groups of buyers and influencers when they try to make sales. If you enjoyed this, please do the usual things. Like, share, and subscribe. And please don't hesitate to let me know if you've got any comments or questions. I love seeing those. I will see you again soon. Take care, everyone.